Dr. Joel Glenwickson here, 7 Billion Geniuses, here to talk about language. Again, this is part 2 in the series on language, and I'm very excited today to talk about one of my favorite ideas that comes from narrative therapy, and it's an idea that I rely on very much in the 7 Billion Geniuses process, and it's called the absent but implicit. It came to me through Michael White, who originated the idea sort of as a modification of an idea that came from a French philosopher, Jacques Derrida. The meaning for Derrida was different than the meaning for Michael, and it's the meaning that Michael attributed to it that I'm really connected to. And so one of my favorite ways to understand the absent but implicit is actually through tracking. And I'm excited today. I have my sunglasses on because it snowed here in Maine. And the useful and important thing about snow for me in the context of this idea is that snow makes it much more obvious when tracks have come through, and that's actually the thing. It's not just the tracks, it's ultimately animals have made these tracks. And so I'm going to show you some tracks and then explain to you how it connects to this notion of the absent but implicit. So what you have right here in front of you is actually 3 sets of tracks. One is me, and the other one, I'm not sure whether it's a fox or a cat. That'd be the line that's going pretty much straight up and down the screen. And the one that trails off to the left is a squirrel set of tracks. And I happen to know that the squirrel tracks happened long before the possibly fox tracks that come through. And then my tracks happened after both of them. As we look more closely at any of these tracks, we get to my connection with what we call the absent but implicit, because what we have here is what's implied in these tracks is a person here, a fox here, and a squirrel here. But there is no squirrel or fox or person. Or I should say, there is no squirrel or fox or person now. There in fact was a squirrel or fox or person, and I'll narrow it down now to the fox. There absolutely was a fox that came through here at some point. We can see that by the fact that the tracks exist. And so implied in these tracks is the fox. And not only the fox, and very skilled trackers can determine many things from a track. They can determine when it happened. They can determine many things about the animal, the weight of the animal, the speed, direction of the animal, but also health concerns about the animal, whether or not it had health issues, whether or not it was focused or unfocused, whether or not it was hunting or not hunting, and it goes on and on and on and on. I'm not a skilled tracker, but I can tell you from knowing many skilled trackers and having talked to them, there's a tremendous amount of information that you can get from a track. And so this gets us to the 7 Billion Geniuses process, where the absent but implicit is extraordinarily important, because it's about this notion that the things that we do, everything that we say, all of our choices, the words that we choose to use, the actions that we choose to take are a manifestation of our genius. But in order to understand that, you have to ask questions with this idea of the absent but implicit. That there are things that are implied but not quite there in the things that we say. And this is very different from the idea that they are somehow subconscious. There's nothing hidden in these tracks, and this is why I love the idea of a track as a metaphor for the absent but implicit. There's nothing hidden in these tracks. In fact, there's a tremendous amount of information absolutely obviously available there. All the information that you want to have about that fox is available in those tracks. You just have to know what to look for. You have to have had the experience of, or get knowledge from someone else about what's actually available in terms of information in that track. And it's the same with the things that we do, the questions that we ask, the words that we use, the choices that we make. Except that it's easier with those things, because we can ask questions into those actions. We can ask questions into those words. And by asking questions into those words, we start to illuminate those things that are available, like what's available in a track. So it's not that these are hidden. I used the flashlight example earlier in that a flashlight does not create things, it illuminates things. Knowledge about tracks illuminates what's there and available. It's not hidden, it's not unconscious, it's simply not yet known. And we can ask questions to make things known that are not yet known. We can ask questions into what we talk about as territories that illuminate those territories. And so, the absent but implicit is simply the idea that there are things implied by everything. Not there, like in a track, the fox is not there, but the fox is implied. And the fox can be known simply by having knowledge about what is available for information that exists in that track, right there in front of you. Just like the choices that we make, the words that we use, the things that we take up, what matters to us, what we stand for, these are all manifestations of our genius. And in order to more clearly understand that genius, we simply ask questions into those manifestations. And so next time, I'll talk about the kinds of questions that we ask and how those questions illuminate our genius. So until next time, Dr. Joel Glenn Wixon, 7 Billion Geniuses. Stay in touch. My contact information is at the end of the video. If you want to read the book that talks about everything that I talk about in these videos, let me know and I'll send you a copy. But for now, thanks for taking the time and stay in touch.